And now
Yeah,
that I'm looking at the list, I'm even more excited.
nice.
Yeah.
We definitely wanted to
Cool.
get a little bit deeper into programming
Yeah, yeah,
and
yeah.
Do
and
it.
actual concepts.
We did get though we were told that we have to ask you about blackjack and a peanut can.
Oh, yeah. Um, so when uh is this gonna be are there children that listen to this? No, just kidding. The so I moved to Northern California. So I live in what people call Northern California right now, which is Oakland Bay Area.
Okay.
But in California, that's really the middle of the state. There's a Northern California, which is like Redding.
Sure.
Redding's the only city up there. And there's like Shasta, Mount Shasta.
Right.
Um, but the first time I moved out of state, so I grew up in Montana. I moved to um, California to train with a guy who I met on um, this website called Elite FTS.
Oh,
You
okay.
remember
Yeah, yeah,
that?
I know. I
Yeah,
remember Elite
yeah.
FTS.
Waiting for
Yeah.
And
Ender
he's
or something.
Yeah, I was real worried
yeah,
about where it was gonna go.
yeah.
You could have said much worse things.
Grinder wasn't a thing back then, but it would have been the 2005 version of that.
Uh-huh.
Um, no, so I met this guy. His name was James Smith. He had a sort of moniker on the site called the Thinker, and I had been training for a long time up until then, but I was like really struggling. I wasn't making any progress. Everything was rough. And I was like, I'm going to try something different. So I contacted him. And then pretty quickly after a few phone calls, he was like, hey, I've got a spare bedroom. You could come out here and live with us. And, we'll rent you the room and you could train with me. And, we'll see if we can improve you. So I went out there and the whole story, like me getting out there was so ridiculous. Like I had $1,000 to my name. I had this car that was like this Oldsmobile that for whatever reason they designed the door handles to be vertical. And then on top of that, the door handles were made out of magnesium. And in Montana, it would get like to 30 below zero. And the handle just snapped off one day. So I couldn't open the driver's side door. So I had to like leave the window cracked and the passenger side door unlocked and crawl in the car from that side until that handle broke off. And then I had to just leave the window open. So I'd like reach in and just open the door.
I had that same
But
car. I mean, not an
yeah,
Oldsmobile, but doors were broken.
same
Yeah.
same thing, right? So it's a total side note. I had a car once that the only in Montana would this happen. It was parked out in front of our house and the back window got smashed in. And I thought, oh man, someone threw a block of ice through it. And then, a couple days later, a week later, whatever, I realized no, they had thrown I found a paper wrapper. The car stunk. I found this paper wrapper around what used to be frozen elk meat. And I could tell that because it said elk on it. So someone had thrown like frozen ground elk through the back window of one of my cars at some point. Um, anyways, I had this car. It was totally busted up. I didn't have a lot of money. I drove out to California. I got about halfway, a quarter of the way out of the state. The car broke down. Couldn't figure out what was wrong with it. I drove home, kind of finally got it running, and then tried again and got stuck again. Then eventually they found it. Oh, it's a fuel pump. Tow the thing, get it fixed. The fuel pump's like $400. So I have like $600 when I get to California. And he was going to charge me like $400 a month for rent or something. So I paid him for the rent and I had $200 to my name, no job, nothing. But he was like, "Hey, I can set you up with the manager of this casino, this Indian casino in Redding, and he can get you a job as a blackjack dealer." And I was like, "Oh, this is great." He's like, "Yeah, you make really good money. Oh, this is perfect." So I show up, I've got $200, and they were like, "Yeah, it's great. Here's how it works. There's a 6 week long class that's free, and it's 4 days a week or 5 days a week, and all you do for 8 hours is play blackjack for like 6 weeks. And the whole point is like you just have to get really, really good at counting when you put a card down. Like you have to know exactly what it is before it hits the table so you can move faster because the faster you deal, the more hands get dealt, the more money you
Sure, yeah.
make, the more money the
Yeah.
casino makes, right? So like they just want people that are good at this. The real skill is in like being able to talk to people and making everyone have a good time and even if they're losing, they're still having fun. But you just play for 8 hours a day. You sit at this casino all day and play blackjack for 6 weeks. And it's actually like kind of enjoyable for the first little bit, but then it's just like so monotonous and so bad. But I had $200 to last me for 6 weeks for food. And so I'm going. And the last week of the class, like the last probably 7 days or 8 days or something, I had $2 left to my name. So I went over to the dollar store, the like equivalent of like the Dollar General or whatever it is. And I'm walking around, I'm like, what's the most food, like calorie dense food I can get that'll last me for the next like as long as possible. And it was like these two big cans. They were probably like they were bigger than a pound, maybe a pound each. They looked bigger than that, but maybe they were only a pound. But I bought two of them for $2, and I lived off of that for like a week before I got the job. And they give you like free coffee and free like soft drinks and stuff. So I would eat these peanuts like, basically I was doing like intermittent fasting, but it was like a 1 week intermittent fast. I was really fucking hungry that last week. I was still training like full time. I was still doing everything else normal. I just had no money and no food and nothing. And I was just praying, like, I hope I get the job and I hope all this works out. And then of course, like I got the job. Because you realize like pretty quickly, you just have to have like a room temperature IQ to pass this. Like
Uh-huh.
as long as you're not a complete idiot, like anybody can learn to do it. Um, and so I got the job, and like the first night, like you make like $300 in cash, like in tips. And so it was like this. That was the moment. Where it's like, fuck, this is just like the end of this. It's just getting worse and worse. Like last $2, you're gonna drink coffee and have nothing to the end of this, and then when it's all over, what do you do? Like you're just gonna have to leave here or get some job, whatever, doing construction or something. And I was lucky enough to have gotten the job and went that way. But that was it. Like I had these like two cans of peanuts for it was at least a week. I think it was just a little over a week, but it was rough. So
I just like the idea that you went to go train to get even stronger. In the first 6 weeks, you just
You don't have any
ate
food.
nothing and
yeah.
got a job
You
at
know when I
Blackjack.
was squatting like every day at Cal Strength, I would do all that with like I would eat like I would get a coffee and a scone, and that was all I ate for the first 3 quarters of the day. I would do 2 or 3 squat workouts off of that, like every day squatting 300 kilos or so, just off a scone. You don't need that much food.
That's the thing that when I was young, and getting into
Yeah.
training, I remember like meal timing and carb loading and all those kinds of things
Mm.
super big.